one. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about content farms, low quality content. What do you think about their latest moves, Google, to just annihilate a whole category, sweeping change like that?
Well, it was certainly good PR for them. They've been getting beaten up in the press, since, I don't know, for the last couple of months about the content farm issue. And, there's the New York Times story about Decor My Eyes, where, this guy's out there making threatening phone calls to customers precisely so he can get negative ratings, which give him more page rank, and he gets more traffic from it. And that guy, I think he's in jail now. He got arrested. And Google, I think they had to respond. But the update, to our eyes, it wasn't that dramatic. They said 12% of their queries had changed. But in some cases, it was just, 1 and 2 traded places. You had eHow and answer bag, and now it's answer bag and eHow. And they count that as a changed result page. But, all the same results are still there. Maybe, bazillions went from number 2 to number 3 or further down the page. But it's still on page 1. They shuffled the deck, but all the cards are still the same.
Yeah. So how do you determine in your mind what is a content farm and what's not? Because it seems like you have things like associated content, Mahalo even, and I can sort of explain our qualifications, but I'm more interested in yours, obviously, how we qualify stuff. But you have something like associated content where you have, like passionate individuals, but maybe it's a real mixed bag. But they're all in America, native speakers of American, of English, I hope. But I don't know. And then you have like eHow, which is clearly not even looking at the results coming out in most cases. You have Suite 101, which is a sort of non-experts but passionate. How do you determine that?
Well, it's an editorial call. There's a difference between the New York Times and the New York Post, and there's a difference between the New York Times and eHow. And you have to say, well, what does the page look like? Why was it created? Why is this content generated? If you look at a site like eHow, they're basically taking phrases that come out of the search query stream. So you can go to ISPs like United Online or Comcast, and you can actually buy user queries. They have taps on web surfing, and they can look at say, well, these are the searches people were doing on Google. Here's the whole data set, and then sort that by expected revenue, by expected CPM, by looking at what ads are bid on it, and say, well, here's the list of everything we want to write about. Now let's put that out onto Mechanical Turk or onto our own labor force and pay people to, quote, write articles about this. And they're not paying, ex-journalists who are writing high-quality content. They're not paying subject experts. They're paying people who basically cut and paste stories from, whatever they can find on the web. And they're paying very low wages, like 6 cents for a 150-word article about, a medical topic. Where really, if you have, you're on, the search engine searching for like osteoblastoma, right? Would you rather read an article by an MD at the Mayo Clinic or by somebody who wrote the article for 5 cents who doesn't have an MD, they're working in Eastern Europe or in India or something, and they just cut and pasted it together to make $1 a day? It's almost reprehensible that content's being served up. It's not subject specific. There's no focus to eHow. It's all over the map. How to build a brick wall, how to tie your shoelaces, how to make a roast chicken, osteoblastoma. It's not good content.
You're not afraid to make the editorial call, whereas Google will not make an editorial call. They'll say, we've tweaked the algorithm, and this device, the algorithm, will magically figure out what's quality and what's not. Do you buy that when they say that, like, oh my God, the algorithm did this? Or is it pretty clear that they're also making an editorial decision but maybe afraid to say that?
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, of course it's editorial, right? The algorithm they're running today isn't the same algorithm they were running last Monday. And it's not the same algorithm they were running in 2007. Every day, Google engineers come in and they type on their keyboards, and the millions of lines that make up Google are different. They look at the SERPs and they say, we don't like these results. We want them to change. Let's change it. And they change it by, tuning constants in the search engine, by writing lines of code, and also by using human trainers. They have thousands of people that see searches, score them on a 1 to 5 scale, vote up, vote down, and rankings change as a result of this. That, as a whole, is an editorial system. And it's sort of, if they're saying, well, it's not us, it's the algorithm, but they make the algorithm. And the algorithm's not some magic 20-line, Excalibur they pulled out of the stone. It's basically a collection of these kinds of heuristics, these rules and weights that they define. And we said, that's a very indirect and sort of obfuscated process. Let's be different. let's just be completely upfront and honest that search is editorial. You type in a query, how to make a roast chicken. And you know what? There's only 10 results on the page. There's not millions. People are going to look at 10 results on the page. And in fact, most of the traffic goes to 1, 2, and 3. So you're going to put up 3 sites for any query. And you could say, well, let's roll the dice and let this very complicated algorithmically tuned system pick that. Or we could say, let's make a list of the top recipe sites. And if we can tell you did a recipe query, let's put you in a /recipes, because you don't want to get a recipe from eHow. You'd rather get it from, Bitten Blog on New York Times or something, or Epicurious, a good site where somebody actually made the chicken.
So in a way, we've had this massive gaming of the system over the last couple of years from the content farms. Now they're reaping what they sow, and the emperor has no clothes. The 2 things I heard from you that I wanted to key off of was the intent of why the content was made and the expertise contained within it. These are 2 of the driving forces, no?
Yeah. I mean, editorially speaking, I think if you have a passionate, even an amateur, but somebody who's passionate, who's an expert about the subject, that's the best person who can create the content. And when Google optimizes their system, they'll pick a random query and show it to one of their raters, and then say, well, does this page look good, 1 to 5? And the problem with that is that person, first of all, they're not a subject expert, and second of all, they didn't do the query themselves. You have to have the intent, right? You have to say, either I made this chicken because I wanted to make it, or I know a lot about making chicken. And that's where you get the quality content. If you're just farming this stuff out to basically, low-wage generalists, you're not going to get as good material.
You've been watching This Week in Startups. To watch the full episode, click here. To check out some other shows from This Week In, click here.